Some of my most popular videos on YouTube, or the most celebrated, have been my issues speaking on LGBTQIX7 rights, and or the lack thereof, or etc., etc. You know, and but I think I am a shadow in terms of eloquently speaking on these issues when compared to my brother, who is visiting us. So, and I want to specifically talk about gay youth groups and their shortcomings and what they could be. So, let me begin by saying that we both went to gay youth groups, and I found my experience was embarrassing and misleading and just stupid. But tell us about yours. What about yours?
Well,
because while I went to a gay youth group for exactly maybe 6 days, whereas you have been to gay youth groups for a while.
Like,
gay, my
like,
brother.
yes, I am.
And single.
Seriously.
Totally serious.
But yeah, for like 5 or 6 years maybe. My initial
Going to gay youth group.
Yes. My initial experience was really very, very good. Part of the reason for that was that I was just coming out of a year of, I'd come out to the family, I'd come out, I think, to maybe a couple of close friends, but I didn't really know any other out gay people my age. And that was a very difficult situation to be in, because you're completely alone in that. And everybody has gone through that. What made the gay youth group really special was that, during that time, it was just, there are other gay people in the world. And it was odd because I was expecting them to all be complete geeks like me. And it was very, very different to realize, it's people of all walks of life. And especially it was valuable going to an inner city gay youth group, because you have not only people of all walks of life, but you've got different economic status, different religions, different classes, different races, and that was a really valuable aspect of it. I wouldn't say that we all, came to terms with all of our issues with one another, and it was all one big happy family without any sort of prejudice at all, but sharing one issue of our lives together, having something in common, gave us at least a sensitivity to to the various other prejudices that we had all faced, and gave us sort of an avenue for exploring that. Like, you deal with this all the time because of the color of your skin, or because you're Jewish, or because you're poor, but in a very, very different way. What's that like? And you're able to connect with people on that. It's sort of an inroad. And that was one thing that was very useful. That it was
a bridge.
Yes, a bridge, exactly. Yeah. It was a bridge to greater understanding on things that were on things other than sexual orientation.
Right.
And at its best, also have seen these youth groups sort of at their worst. Over time, there was definitely problems with overcrowding. The group got really huge and out of control. And then later on, I attended a college group, which was... I have a problem with college groups, or at least the ones that I've seen. The way I feel is that they're very unfocused, that they're sort of, for the leadership, they're something to put on the resume.
Right.
And for the people who go there, it's a pickup spot.
Yeah.
And, hey, I'm all for people putting things like that on their resumes. Mm-hmm. I'm all for people picking up each other.
Yeah. Me too. My problem... I'm sorry to interrupt, but my big issue with the college groups is that there was always they were always split between the people who wanted to do parties every day, the people who wanted to do political activist stuff, and the people who just wanted, people who were just there, see, for hard-on sakes, and then people who were just fighting to be in the position of the leader, and it was all just torn and uncommunicative. Continue.
I would say, and I noticed exactly the same
Yeah.
thing. There were definitely conflicting interests within the group. And it's hard to divide that up because there's such different tasks, like to be a support group, to be a social group, to be an activist group.
Yeah.
Those are just, to be an educational group too, because just because you're just because you're gay doesn't mean you understand what it is to be bisexual. Just because you're bisexual doesn't mean you know what it means to be transgender.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room for ignorance within the community. But I think the biggest thing, if I were to say a direction that some of these groups need to go in order to change, is that a lot of them neglect the sense of community within the group. At its best, the first group that I went, the one that was going really well for a long time, there was a real camaraderie. There was a real sense that you could share things and be open and say things that were maybe controversial even within the group, but that you could still share that and talk about that, and that things that you aren't able to discuss in your daily life, you can have a safe space for that. Because one of the big challenges of specifically GLBTs is that we're scattered. Mm-hmm. It's a very individual thing. You aren't brought up in that sort of culture. You sort of enter it maybe, when you're maybe like 14 at the earliest. When you begin to, understand that identity. So you sort of show up late and you aren't steeped in the knowledge and you don't have the connections, and when it's done you go home.
Suppose you're in a youth group, right? And it's a bad situation, like you're the only one who really sees that there's a problem, or that is willing to do there's a problem, or do you have any advice for someone who's like, in that situation? Should they try to change the group? Should they try to make their own group? Should they give up and leave, or read a book? What do you think?
I would say,
because you've been in that situation
and failed. I did, but I tried.
Me too.
Kind of. I would say step one, which I skipped, which is part of the reason I didn't do so well. Step one is just to try it diplomatically, like approach the leadership and say, "Oh, hey, you want to, I think that maybe we could try a little more of this. Maybe that'll work. Maybe it won't.
Depending on who or
what,
they're filthy."
It's a lot of times when you think you're the only one that's noticing these problems, you're not. It may be that, the president of the club notices them too, and and if you were to approach, they'd say, "Oh God, I know. It's such a problem. I've been noticing it too. I don't know what to do about it, and I've been too embarrassed to talk about it." It may be that you don't need to overthrow anything and you can just do it cooperatively. Maybe not. If that's the case, then you need to start looking around, find out who else feels that way. If you really are the only one, that's probably nothing you can do. But if you can find, other people within the group that want that sort of change, then you can
hang out with them.
Figure out a plan, approach the issue together, and if you can't find people within the group, then I would say, then the time is right to start your own group.
Okay. We're about to run out of time, so this is gonna be a segue into part 2, in which I asked my brother what he thinks of the internet celebrity gay pop culture icons. So stay tuned.